Hello and welcome back to another episode of 9 Season 2009 here on MotoGP 22. It's been quite a long time since I did the last episode of this, but because MotoGP 23 is releasing very soon, I thought I might try and get back to this series a little bit, try and get through it so we can actually finish it before that game does come out at the beginning of June. So this time we're here for round 11 at Brno for the Czech Grand Prix. The absence of Casey Stoner, who returned home due to physical issues, restricts the challenge for the title to the two official Yamaha riders. After a 3-week break, everyone is eager to get back on the track. So of course at this point of the 2009 season, this is when Stoner was having his issues with lactose intolerance and I think the beginning of this chronic fatigue that he still suffers from to this day, unfortunately. So he was actually absent from this point, so that pretty much put him out of the title hunt. Obviously Pedrosa was already out of it because of injuries he picked up previously and races where he crashed or not started, so he was out of the hunt because of that. So it was down to the two factory Yamahas. So let's head into this round then and see who we've got to ride as and what we've got to do.
Back on track after the summer break for the race in the Czech Republic, Rossi, Lorenzo and Pedrosa are on the front row. Casey Stoner is in Australia. Under doctor's orders, he's withdrawn from the next 3 races. The championship is now a straight fight between Rossi and Lorenzo. Rossi makes a great start, but Lorenzo hunts him down. With 6 laps to go, he's on Rossi's tail. 9 laps to go. Lorenzo's coming. You can hear him. Prepare to strike back.
So then here we are, we're playing as Rossi then. For this part, of course, this was actually a pretty good duel between the two of them at the Czech Grand Prix, if you do remember back to 2009, if you can remember back to that far. So what we've got to do, we've got to beat Lorenzo, and we've just got to make sure he doesn't overtake me. Well, I don't want to be in traction control too, that's the first thing I want to change there. But it's been a while since I've played Brno, must be said. Obviously, I've played it in GP bikes a few times recently. But, oh, we've been passed by Lorenzo, so we've already failed the secondary objective. Lorenzo gets through. I was about to say I've not played it in the MotoGP game for quite a while. There we got the inside to the Schwantz corner. He's stuck on the outside. And we've got a little bit of contact with Lorenzo. He's picked the bike up. He's almost gone into the grass there as Lorenzo. It was a bit over dramatic. He needed to pick up slightly, I think, to not hit me. I think he turned in on me a little bit. But, I've gone down. So I guess I have to retry this one. It's not exactly gone to plan. I've got to do 5 laps and I've done about 2 corners. So like I was saying, obviously we've not done too much Brno lately, so I've got to try and get up to speed with it on this game. Obviously I've played it in GP bikes a little bit, like I've said, but not actually played it in a milestone game for quite a while. Probably since like MotoGP 20 to be fair, because I've not really played it as a historic track at all. So I'm going to try and get into the groove of this. It was always a pretty good track for the AI, so this might be quite a difficult one. We've got a little bit wide through turn 8, so we do need to start trying to pull this bike down. Obviously, we haven't got any engine braking that we can adjust on this bike, so it is going to run a little bit long into some of these corners, so we have got to be careful of that. I think, to be honest, the goal has got to be to try and gap Lorenzo rather than not get past, but he's bashed me out the way anyway. So Lorenzo has pulled off a pretty aggressive pass. That's one of the objectives failed already there, but we've still got 4 laps to get back past him. We're going around the outside through turn 11. Oh, no, we're not going to get the inside through turn 12 there, so we've lost quite a bit of time to Lorenzo through that section. Put the end wheel up to 5, so we're not struggling so much down to power mode. I was actually going to say down to power mode 2, but I think we'll probably be okay. There's a fuel to stay in 3, but I've made another mistake. I mean, usually a big part of the challenge of these is actually trying to get back up to speed with the 2009 bikes, because I feel they're so different to the modern day bikes, obviously the one that I use in career mode, especially the Ducati. The Yamaha, I think, is probably the best bike in the 2009 pack, even though there's actually not a lot in it. I remember the Honda, I think, is quite bad. The Ducati is pretty decent. I think the Honda is quite bad, though. We might get past by Lorenzo there. Not quite, actually, but I think he probably will get us down towards Kevin Schwantz, because he is right there. And the AI can turn quite a tight line through this corner. So I've got to try and stay right on the apex to stop him bashing his way through. But he slid through that time. It was much cleaner. I'll tell you what, it's going to be pretty difficult to actually beat him, because, like I was saying before, the AI are actually very good at Brno. It was always a strong track of theirs. So it was actually quite a detriment to them when they lost it. And that was back in the day when the direction changes were fast. So I imagine they're actually pretty difficult to beat on this circuit now, especially with these 2009 bikes. So I'm going to have to push quite hard, I reckon, to beat Lorenzo here. So we've got 4 more laps. I think I should put this down the back of him, to be fair, because I do seem to think there's probably sectors where I'm going to be quicker than him. So it's going to be towards the end of the lap, and that was bizarre. That was a strange crash, that one. Right, I need to get my act together here. I'm making way too many mistakes. It's allowing Lorenzo basically just to easily win this race. The crash we just had there at turn 1 was very strange. I didn't feel like I was on the limit particularly, but we did have the accident. Lorenzo could try and get me out of turn 9. He's not quite been able to do it, but again, he's probably going to be in a position to pass me into Kevin Schwantz. Seems like there's very little I can sort of do to stop him. I can park it right on the apex, but he's still just got at the inside of me. And unfortunately, again, that second objective failed. I was really trying to just sort of keep that objective. That's why I went so defensive, because I think if he gets past me, I could probably re-overtake him. But, well, as we obviously kind of did there. But the reason why I was trying to go so defensive was so that we could get that second objective. It's worth noting that the tyres are pretty worn as well, which obviously doesn't help, because the AI... Oh, handled the tyre a lot better. That was a big moment on the curb. Again, I completely forgot that curb is deadly in this game. It's like really flat in real life, so they actually do use it. But it's deadly in the milestone games. And we've had Lorenzo come through there, so we're going to have to try and re-overtake him once again. James Tozen does the fastest lap, 56. Then it's for Mullen. And can we do a pass up the inside Lorenzo here? We've done a stoppie on the brakes. That brake Lorenzo, he's hitting at the back and he's knocked us both off. Lorenzo has taken us both down. So, to be honest, I think I'll actually keep going here because Lorenzo's knocked me off too. Well, knocked himself off too, but he's now got a huge lead. So we've now got to try and gain 2.3 back on him. I can't catch a break with this, can I? I absolutely can't. Well, I've been sweating a lot. And I have caught up to Lorenzo quite substantially. 55-0 on that lap. But we're starting the final lap of the challenge now. So I actually need to pass him on this lap, which is going to be difficult because he's so much quicker than me in the second half of the lap. It's probably as close as I'm going to get to him. 0.6, 0.5 of a second. We go down towards the Schwantz corner. He's just really good sort of through this section, although we are gaining on him again through here. But they are pretty decent through this turn, although we've both gone pretty wide. I've actually followed his line, which actually probably helped me out, because I'm underneath by about a quarter of a second compared to what I've done previously. So I'm going to close on him a lot on the brakes. Am I going to be close enough to go for a pass? I don't think so, unfortunately, through this penultimate turn. I think we're just going to miss out versus Lorenzo, unless we can get him on the run to the line. I'm opening the power as early as possible. Out the last corner, though, Lorenzo is going to beat us, which is unfortunate because he knocked us off to do it. I was so fast. I was so much faster than him there, but unfortunately we weren't able to just pass him. We basically caught him up from that over 2 seconds behind, but unfortunately we weren't able to actually overtake him. So I'm quite happy with that. I think the pace is good. So if we try it again, we actually might be able to get both objectives this time, because obviously I've learned a lot more how to ride the bike. So I should have the advantage on Lorenzo this time. I've got to try and check out. Right, I managed to stop and go through Schwantz. So that's the first obstacle done of this challenge. So here we are then, coming through the final couple of corners. We've managed to keep Lorenzo at bay. Although, to be honest, he did seem a bit quicker this time. Almost as if they were sort of rubber banding when he was ahead. But we've managed to achieve it, and we got both objectives. So yeah, like I was saying, it did seem he was a bit quicker on that attempt. I obviously caught about 2 seconds up to him on the previous one, but this time I only managed to pull about 1 second away. I actually couldn't shake him for the first couple of laps. And in terms of the actual lap times, very, very similar, to be honest. They weren't really any slower than the previous attempt, so I'm not really sure how he was keeping up with me. Like I said, I think he perhaps was rubber banding a little bit. But it was probably one of those more boring events where they just give you a really long track and just give you quite a few laps to do. Like, this is the longest track on the 2009 calendar. We had to do 5 laps of it, of basically doing nothing. Whilst it was fun to push, it was a bit of a boring one and a little bit boring for the video. So hopefully the next chapter is a bit more interesting. So let's head into it.
I was a little bit tired, so I did a mistake in one braking and I crashed.
Pedrosa follows Rossi home. With Lorenzo and Stoner out, there's room for one more on the podium. Andrea Dovizioso or Toni Elias? Who's it gonna be? You haven't been on the podium in a year. You crashed out of the lead in the last race, the British Grand Prix, which Dovizioso won. Dovizioso on the factory Honda, which is that little bit better than your satellite team Honda. It's all good motivation.
So then, Lorenzo, of course, had the infamous crash whilst battling with Valentino at the front, which opens up a spot on the podium for either myself or Dovizioso. Well, what is... Okay, well, I think that's probably just gotten a lot easier, that challenge. What I was trying to say was, for either myself or Dovizioso, and we've got to try and beat Dovizioso and gap him by 0.5, but Dovi has just careered into the side of me and just given me a huge gap, so I think this one is going to be rather simple. Possibly a first time. Don't go wide, don't go wide. Oh, I bottled it. I absolutely bottled it. To be fair, I'm not too bothered because I'd rather have a bit more of a fun one where we're having a bit of a battle rather than just, again, it kind of being over from the very beginning. This time we're actually allowed to be overtaken, which does make it a lot easier. It means we can actually have maybe a little bit of a battle with Dovizioso. But yeah, of course, like I was saying, Lorenzo obviously has that infamous crash whilst battling Valentino. There's a spot on the podium that us two can fight over. Obviously, Dovizioso, the previous race winner at this point. I don't know where I was going there, by the way, guys, so I do apologise, riding all the way on the green and the grass. But we're on this Honda, and like I said before, I think the Honda is the worst bike in this mode. So far, we've ridden quite a few different bikes. We're going to ride all the bikes at some point, I believe. Every manufacturer. I don't think every rider, but definitely every manufacturer. In fact, we've probably already ridden every manufacturer. I'm not sure about the Suzuki, but I think everything except the Suzuki, definitely. We've been on at some point. Here we got the inside of Dovizioso. He's turned in on us a little bit there. So Dovi hangs it around the outside. I'm going to try and square him off up the hill through turn 12. I'd have a look into this penultimate turn, but I think we are a bit too far back. Would perhaps be a little bit reckless. But this is certainly one of those challenges again where it's going to be cutting it fine for the fuel. But Dovi made a big mistake through the last corner. So let's put us right on the back of him. Here we go. Down towards turn 1. Can we try and lever our way through on the brakes into turn 1? Elias back up into P3. But Dovizioso's going to surely ride back underneath me. It's one of those double apex corners. But we're going to try and hang it around the outside, which I think we've managed to do. Flicking the bike over. And he's got that straight line speed. He's probably got a slightly quicker bike than me, to be fair, because he is on the factory bike. And of course, back in the day, there was a bigger gap between the factory and satellites, as very recently pointed out by Bagnaia in a rather strange comment and interview. But that's definitely something for a different day. We're in 2009 here, battling for supremacy in terms of Honda, I guess, really, because of course Dovizioso at this point, I think it's fair to say, was kind of underperforming. Obviously, he did pick up that race win in Donington, but that was it, really, a weird wet race win where lots of other people fell off. And Dovi again has done the same pass he did the first time. What's he done? What has he done there? The AI, Lorenzo kept trying to do that in the previous one, but the AI are awful. Like, they just don't know how to ride or how to overtake or how to do anything properly. They just crash into the side of you, going for the most ridiculous passes. I'm going to try and give it my best here, though. I think I'm going to try and beat Capirossi. It's going to be difficult because he's obviously a whole second ahead of me, but I think we're probably quicker than him because I suppose he's supposed to be one of the guys behind us. So if we can try and catch Capirossi, we could still try and get that podium for Elias, even though we don't need to get on the podium in the challenge. It doesn't actually specify that, which is rather strange. You think it would specify that, but either way, we've got to try and beat Capirossi, but we've made no inroads on him so far, which isn't great. So he made a similar mistake there to Dovizioso out of that last corner. So we're only 6 tenths behind him now, so that's half the gap for us pretty much. And the first sector is really where they're quite weak, because obviously it's MotoGP 22, so they're quite poor on the brakes in general. And the first sector's got a few heavy braking zones, although we've kind of messed up that turn 1 exit quite a lot, which has helped Capirossi out. Pretty much nullified everything we gained in turn 1, unfortunately. So then here we are, all over the back of Capirossi. It's going to be difficult to pass him from here, because the AI are quite good through this next section of corners. Although, in fairness, they're not actually that good through Schwantz. It's just the fact that they dive bomb you if you're in front of them. We're a massive amount underneath the time here, 1.9 seconds underneath our previous time. In fact, we're pretty much on par with what we're doing on the Yamaha if everything goes as the gap expects. But we're up the inside of Capirossi there. Beautiful move. That was clean. There's a little bit of rub in there, but nothing wrong with that. We didn't nerf him out the way like the AI would have done to me. And we've now got to be pretty careful through this section because, again, they do like to attack you in a very strange way, especially through this part. There he goes back up the inside. Fair enough, though. That was fairly clean. A little bit of contact. Capirossi's trying to squeeze us towards the grass, down towards the penultimate turn on the brakes. We've just got to outbrake Capirossi a little bit there. We've got the inside for the penultimate turn. I know he's probably going to make a mistake through the final corner on the curb. So here we go through the last turn. He's tried to get us, but we've got Capirossi here, so it's going to be third place for Elias. We've beat someone to it, even though it wasn't Dovi. But there you go then, a much more interesting second chapter. The first one a little bit more boring because, to be honest, it was just kind of sweating trying to keep ahead of Lorenzo. And unfortunately, the time he knocked me off as well was similar, just the other way around. Like, I was having to push so hard that I really didn't want to try and talk and commentate at the same time because I was going so far over the limit. And the tyres obviously were pretty worn, so there wasn't actually a lot of grip underfoot, so it was quite difficult there. But there you go there, that is the Brno episode of 9 Season 2009. Getting to do some of the unsung heroes. Once again, that's episode 4 of that. It's a little series that goes through this where you're playing as obviously some of the satellite riders. They're a little bit further down the order. But hopefully you guys did enjoy that one. Hopefully I'll be back with the next episode soon because like I said, I do want to try and get it done before MotoGP 23 comes out. But I hope you did enjoy that one. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Hope you'll stay safe and I shall see you in the next one.